There was a moment, sometime in the last 70 years, when eating stopped being instinctive. Not all at once, not dramatically, but if you look back at the way people used to eat, the way they prepared food, the way they sat down together, the meals were timed and portioned, something fundamental shifted. And most of us never noticed it happening. We just woke up one day in a world where eating had become something else entirely. In 1977, the United States government published a set of dietary guidelines. It was the first time the federal government had ever told Americans what to eat. The message was clear. Fat was dangerous, especially saturated fat. It raised cholesterol, clogged arteries, caused heart disease. The science, they said, was settled. Within a decade, grocery stores transformed. Entire aisles were rebranded. Low-fat and fat-free labels appeared on everything: yogurt, cookies, salad dressing, milk. The food industry responded with enthusiasm. If fat was the enemy, they would remove it, and they did. But fat makes food taste like something. Without it, products were bland, unappealing. So they added sugar, lots of it. High fructose corn syrup became ubiquitous. It was cheap, shelf-stable, and solved the taste problem instantly. A low-fat muffin could now taste better than the original. A fat-free yogurt could be sweet enough to feel like dessert. No one questioned it. The labels said healthy. Doctors recommended it. Schools served it. Parents bought it. Eating low-fat became a moral act, a sign of discipline and care. People who avoided fat felt virtuous. People who didn't felt reckless. At the same time, another shift was happening. Meals were becoming inconvenient. Women had entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, and the time available for cooking collapsed. The food industry, once again, had a solution: convenience. Frozen dinners, instant meals, pre-packaged snacks, microwave everything. It wasn't presented as a compromise, it was marketed as liberation. Breakfast cereals were fortified with vitamins and called part of a complete breakfast. Lunchables were designed to fit into a backpack. Snack packs promised portion control. Fast food chains expanded into every suburb, offering speed and consistency. Eating became faster, simpler, more predictable. And then there was the scheduling. 3 meals a day was no longer enough. Nutritionists began advocating for smaller, more frequent meals, 5 or 6 a day. It would keep your metabolism active, they said. It would prevent overeating. Snacking became not just acceptable, but recommended. Granola bars, fruit cups, 100-calorie packs, all marketed as tools for healthy living. The amount of time between eating and eating again shrank. Hunger became something to avoid, not something to expect. Eating became constant. By the 1990s, portion sizes had grown. A standard soda was no longer 8 ounces, it was 20. A muffin was no longer a small breakfast item, it was the size of a softball. Bagels doubled in diameter. Pasta servings tripled. Plates got bigger to match. Restaurants began competing on volume. Endless breadsticks, bottomless fries, supersized everything. People adjusted. What once felt like too much began to feel normal. The new portions became the baseline. Appetite followed. Before all of this, eating looked different. Meals were prepared at home from ingredients. Not always elaborate, sometimes very simple, but made by hand. A roast, vegetables from the garden, bread baked in the oven. Butter was normal. Eggs were normal. Meat was normal. Fat was not feared. People ate when they were hungry and stopped when they were full. Breakfast might be eggs and toast. Lunch might be leftovers. Dinner was the largest meal, eaten together, often at the same time each evening. Snacking was rare. There wasn't much to snack on. If you were hungry between meals, you waited. That was just how it worked. Hunger was not an emergency, it was a signal, and eating was the response. But in the decades after 1980, something changed in the body's relationship with food. The constant availability of sugar and refined carbohydrates began to alter insulin patterns. When you eat sugar, your body releases insulin to manage blood glucose. When you eat sugar frequently, your body releases insulin frequently. Over time, cells become less responsive. They need more insulin to do the same job. The pancreas works harder, blood sugar becomes unstable. This creates a cycle. You eat something sweet, your blood sugar spikes, insulin is released, your blood sugar drops. You feel hungry again. You eat something sweet. The cycle repeats. It's not hunger in the traditional sense, it's a blood sugar crash, but it feels the same. So you eat again. Meanwhile, the removal of fat from the diet had its own effects. Fat slows digestion. It signals satiety. It helps absorb certain vitamins. Without it, meals became less satisfying. People ate more to feel full. They felt hungry sooner. The body adapted, but not in the way anyone intended. By the year 2000, 73 million Americans were classified as obese. That was more than double the number in 1980. Childhood obesity had tripled. Type 2 diabetes, once called adult-onset diabetes, was now being diagnosed in teenagers. Metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and excess abdominal fat, became common. The guidelines had said to eat less fat. People did. They ate more carbohydrates instead. They snacked more. They ate larger portions, and they got sicker. But the guidelines didn't change. The message remained, fat is the problem. Eat less of it. Exercise more. If you're gaining weight, you're not trying hard enough. It became a matter of personal responsibility, discipline, willpower. No one questioned whether the advice itself might be wrong. In 2015, an investigation revealed that the sugar industry had paid scientists in the 1960s to downplay the role of sugar in heart disease and emphasize fat instead. Internal documents showed deliberate influence over public health messaging. The research that shaped the 1977 dietary guidelines had been corrupted at its origin. But by then, 2 generations had already grown up eating the way they were told to eat. The effects went beyond weight. Rates of depression, anxiety, and attention disorders rose in parallel with changes in diet. The gut-brain axis, the communication network between the digestive system and the brain, was disrupted by ultra-processed foods, artificial additives, and the absence of fiber. Inflammation became chronic. The immune system stayed activated. And eating itself had changed. It was no longer a shared ritual. Families stopped eating together. Meals were eaten alone, in front of screens, in cars, at desks. The time spent preparing food dropped by half. The time spent eating dropped too. Speed mattered more than taste. Convenience mattered more than nourishment. Children grew up never learning to cook. They didn't know what food looked like before it was packaged. A tomato was something that came sliced in a plastic container. Chicken was something shaped like a nugget. Bread came pre-sliced, preservative-laden, designed to last weeks without molding. Taste buds adapted to the new normal. Whole foods tasted bland. Vegetables tasted bitter. Anything without added sugar or salt felt flavorless. The palate had been trained. And the culture had shifted too. Eating had become individualized, optimized, quantified. Calories were counted, macros were tracked, meals were photographed. Diets came and went. Low carb, low fat, paleo, keto, intermittent fasting. Each promised to undo the damage of the last. None addressed the underlying system. The food industry, meanwhile, continued to grow. In 2020, the global processed food market was valued at over $2 trillion. Ultra-processed foods made up 60% of the average American's caloric intake. The
The 10 largest food companies controlled most of what appeared on grocery store shelves. They shaped taste, availability, and price. They funded research, they lobbied governments, they advertised directly to children. And people kept eating what they were given.
There's a term used in behavioral science, choice architecture. It refers to the way options are presented in order to influence decisions. You don't force someone to choose something. You just make that choice easier, more appealing, more visible. You design the environment so that the desired behavior feels natural. That's what happened with food. No one was forced to eat low-fat yogurt or microwave dinners or snack 6 times a day. But those options were made cheap, convenient, and ubiquitous. They were endorsed by authority figures. They were marketed as modern, healthy, responsible. Choosing anything else required effort, time, money, and knowledge that most people didn't have. The system didn't break, it worked exactly as it was designed to. And now, decades later, the evidence is everywhere. In hospital wards, in prescription rates, in waistlines, in the way people feel in their own bodies, tired, inflamed, disconnected, in the way they relate to food as something to control, avoid, or surrender to. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't the result of laziness or ignorance. It was the result of policy, profit, and the slow rewriting of instinct. People used to know when to eat. They used to know when to stop. They used to trust their hunger. That knowledge was replaced with guidelines, with marketing, with engineering. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. What we were fed wasn't just food, it was a set of instructions delivered quietly over decades on how to live, how to eat, how to feel about our own bodies. And most of us followed those instructions without ever realizing we'd been given them. This is only one part of the story. There are others.